Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you if you're watching on YouTube and on Facebook. My name is Marcus Bradley. I am the host and founder of the XY Perspective. And tonight we are dabbling into election cycle madness. We are live with, the distinguished panel of gentlemen. As always, Andre Williams, Tony Simmons, Marcus Massey. Today we got Mr. Lazarus joining us live also. And we got other members as well that'll be joining us too. We are going to be talking about Project 2025. It's one of the items that is up with one of the campaigns that have been petitioning to bring this out. So the general consensus is that a lot of people know very little about it. A few people know a lot about it, but the majority of the folks don't know anything about it. So we're going to quell those rumors today because in the XY Perspective, knowledge is power, and our people will not perish for lack of knowledge here because we're going to give you the knowledge. So the panel, are you ready? Are you guys ready to discuss this sensitive topic? I got salutes and head nods there. It's kind of quiet, but I figure it's not going to be quiet for long. Another disclaimer, audience. This is not a show about politics. If you got comments and stuff, put the comments in there in the comment section. But we're not going to be commenting as best we can on any particular candidate. We're not swaying votes any side, either way. All we're discussing is the information that's included in the Project 2025 document. And with that, let me begin. What is Project 2025? It is a 900-page policy wish list. Let me get these real quick. Sorry about that. For the next Republican president, a proposal that would expand presidential power and impose an ultra-conservative social vision. The Heritage Foundation is one of Washington's most prominent right-wing think tanks. It first produced plans for the future Republican administration in 1981, when Ronald Reagan was about to take office. It has produced similar documents in connection with subsequent presidential elections, including in 2016, when Donald Trump won the presidency. Donald Trump has since began pushing away from the document earlier in July this year, stating he knows nothing about Project 2025. He said, I have no idea who is behind it or what it is. The document itself sets out 4 main policy aims: to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life, dismantle the administrative state, defend the nation's sovereignty and its borders, and secure God-given individual rights to live freely. Sounds really good, doesn't it, guys?
On his face, yes.
Yes, on its face. Yeah. We're going to start out with anyone need some opening comments. Anybody want to speak? I'll try to limit everybody to like a minute and a half if they want to respond. So anybody opening thoughts, like how do you feel about the document, or if you know anything about it, and anything you want to say about it before we begin? Open floor.
Yeah, just real quick for everybody. I'm real big on the AI chat GPT thing and all that. And one of the questions I asked it was just, hey, for Project 2025, what are the pros and cons of it, right? And when I go into all the detail of it, it said, based on information provided, Project 2025 appears to have overwhelmingly negative impacts for African Americans and Black communities. There do not seem to be any clear pros or benefits for Black Americans outlined in the search. Here's a summary of key cons and negative effects. And it just goes through like a list of negatives. So keep that in mind with this document.
Okay. It's like asking a kid to list the pros and cons of slavery in school, right?
Exactly. they fed us on Friday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, one of the biggest things that Project 2025 wanted to list, and y'all can jump in at any time if you have a comment. Project 2025 proposes that the entire federal bureaucracy, including independent agencies such as the Department of Justice, be placed under direct presidential control. Agree or disagree?
I disagree.
I
Disagree?
extremely disagree.
I disagree. Yeah, you have to have some checks and balances.
Got to
You
have
have
checks
to
and
have
balances.
some points of separation. If you look at it, so if you look at the opening statement you read, I was trying to read that. I think it was the last line. God-given individual rights to live freely.
Yes,
But
sir.
then if you start to go into the details, who are they saying live freely for? So you have to read beyond the bullets. And like Marcus said, once you read into the details, you have to think about what are the major or who are the major initiatives going to impact. Now they're not going to explicitly say that, but if you think about if you do this, who will it impact or how will it have an impact? So you have to have some type of checks and balances. You cannot have just absolute power.
Okay. Okay. Anybody agree with that? Well, let me frame it a different way. In practice, would streamlining decision making allow the president to directly implement policies in a number of areas?
I think the only way that works is if you limit on what those things can be, those policies can be made in. Like, hey, we got a disaster. Hey, he can go ahead and streamline certain policies to get things enacted quickly to take care of people, other than $750 to help people get through a hurricane or some type
And man,
of.
that was a gut punch, man. That was a gut.
No, I'm just saying it would be more than $750 that he would quickly be able to streamline.
Oh, okay, I feel you. Okay, I got
But what would that do that he can't do with executive orders already?
I was gonna say I don't want to say but I don't think you want to give one person that kind of power. Period. I don't care, man, woman. I don't care who you are. That's not what I guess the citizens would benefit from having something like that happen. Man, it just wouldn't make sense.
You have then stepped away from democracy altogether.
Which is some people want to take us there, but hey, we're not doing that, right?
Who's there at the bottom?
Not
Mr.
without
Bennett?
a fight.
Mr. Bennett, I
Yes.
see you down there at the bottom. You was muted for a second. You okay with any of this? You got any?
Oh yes, I'm listening. I'm taking it in right now.
Okay, got it. Understood.
I definitely think we would be moving away from democracy to try to put everything in one man's hands.
Unilateral
I don't think
control.
that's good.
Yes, sir. All right, look. All right, the proposals also call for eliminating job protections for thousands of government employees who could then be replaced by political appointees. Agree or disagree?
I disagree.
I disagree again.
Why so?
I disagree.
Well, I mean, it's along the same lines, right? And I'm gonna give you an example, and I don't want to get too far off. We had I was a part of a union, and we had the union president came in, and he literally strategically placed all of his relatives, right? Strategically placed all of his relatives and made them union stewards, right? So therefore, anytime anything came up to be voted on, what have you, then he had all of his people in place, right? So that he knew he could never be taken out or out of position. And so it's the same, it goes along the same lines. We don't want one person to have too much power. Allowing that to happen, to be able to hand select individuals and place them wherever he would need them or want them, he or she, right, would be detrimental. It wouldn't be a good idea at all. Too much power.
Because we started to see some of this in 2016, where the judges and the Supreme Court was drastically changed. We've already seen where that Supreme Court has now made it almost impossible for any sitting U.S. president to get in trouble for any wrongdoing whatsoever.
Right.
They got basically diplomatic immunity as long as they're sitting president. And I think that is dangerous in itself. Any comment on that? None?
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
This next one is what I'm gonna get my first question off of. This also includes a proposal to declassify government records, root out wrongdoers, fire corrupt employees. It also pledges to slash regulation and government spending and explicitly calls for the closing of the Department of Education.
Scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comments?
Yeah, definitely not that part with the education, obviously, because we've been looking to control education for a while of all different types of backgrounds anyway, right?
Yep.
And we're already being programmed in a way that's really not helping our community out. You know, I was having a discussion the other day, how many degrees out there actually pay you a decent amount of pay to be able to live versus how many degrees is going to put you in 6-figure debt and you're making 50 grand.
Hello.
And if you're lucky to get your job in that field, right?
Right.
So here's my question to you guys. Given that state where, and we're sticking with just black men, where most black men can't read on a 12th grade level when they graduate anyway, is the Department of Education beneficial for the education of black students?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I would say historically it hasn't been, but I think that it's a program, if used correctly, could benefit everybody.
Okay. But more black families, black families have now in the last 2 years is now the greatest percentage growing of homeschool students.
And should continue to grow.
And should continue.
Yeah.
So I restate the question. Is the Department of Education beneficial for the education of specifically black students?
I would say no in today's state. I mean, we can't even define what a woman is, right? when you talking about, we can't even define that.
See, Mr. Massey, see, you.
No.
Well, he's telling the truth, though.
He is.
I mean, he ain't lying.
I didn't see that in Project 2025, though.
But you got to read between the lines. It's closing off a bunch of things as it is now with all these, liberal teachings that have nothing to do with your kids' education. And
yes,
one
sir.
Of the things that we used to do a lot was that we used to be involved with the curriculum. Like you used to know what are they teaching.
But
most parents nowadays have veered away from the curriculum to know what are they actually teaching. And by the way, how does your child learn? And are they going to a school that teach the way that they learn?
Right. We did homeschool last year, and the biggest thing we found was keeping the kids active in between like classes and studies. And for boys, they got to get out and move around and do stuff. They can't sit in front of a computer screen 6, 7, 8 hours and not, do anything else. So we found it difficult in that aspect, but they learned, I'm gonna say 90% of everything that they would not have gotten taught in a regular classroom.
But think about what you just said, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you talked about boys and how they need to be active,
okay?
So you take that and you put those same boys that you're referring to, you put them in a classroom where they're taught you can't get up, you can't move, you can't do this, you can't do that. Not to mention, right, that most of them are being taught by a woman, right? That, let's be honest, it is hard for a young man, right, to stay attentive, right? When you, hey Johnny, sit down, you know what I mean? So when you couple that all together, right, it goes back to the point you made. Are we benefiting from having it open? I'm not really sure. I don't want to say no, but I will say this: dismantling everything cannot be the answer either.
Yes,
right?
sir. Restructure.
Right. You can't just dismantle everything and say, hey, well, look, we're going to start doing, and we're going to do everything all over again, start a different way. Not all at the same time. You have to, it has to be incremental if you're going to change things.
If anything, we need to look at how techniques can benefit with a mindset of knowing that what used to work, you have to modify with the times in order to capture the attention and how you bring forth the information to those who are receiving it.
Somebody got dogs in the background. I hear dogs bark.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with restructuring, but I want to address something that was mentioned earlier. You know, a lot of the African American community doesn't really read at a high level
Mhm.
of have a high level of education. So what is the, you know, we got to have a certain criteria that the parent or the person that's doing the teaching, you know, that they meet this level to ensure that the kids do get what they absolutely need.
And,
Well,
and
I'm gonna push back on that a little bit. I'm gonna tell you why. Because a lot of stuff that's taught in the schools is useless anyway.
Right.
Right? Back in the day, man, you had shop classes, you had woodworking, mechanics, you had cooking, those type of things. Going, learning how to write a checkbook, learn how to cursive write your name. Those are it's just the basic fundamentals, right? We don't have to learn trigonometry and all that stuff. It's useless. Let's be honest. That
Yes, sir.
stuff is nothing more than somebody saying, hey, okay, we want to conform your mind conform to this or that. Most of the stuff. So
Yep.
so I understand that you have to have a certain level of what it is you want to educate the children. But if you're teaching them life skills, those are the most important skills of them all.
Yes.
And they're lacking. They're non-existent in schools now.
So, and
Yep.
so
Got a
before
question though.
before before we do to one thing real quick, we're gonna come back to that because I got a question at the end because those basic skill courses for men who don't even, let's just be for real. Like I said, the stat, only I think 6% of all graduating males read at a 12th grade level. I think those basic skill courses, those woodworking, electricians, those things are essential for men to have once they graduate because most of them ain't going to college anyway. So they got to have something to do. But we're going to readdress that later on. I want to take a second to, I seen Mr. Colston came in late. And give him a chance to, if you have any comments real quick about what we've been talking about. I don't want you to sit down there left out.
Oh no, I don't feel left out, and I'm sorry for being late.
That's all right.
Where I'm at, 35 minutes away from me, there's a rally for Mr. Trump, so that just messed up traffic and
Okay.
everything else. So, pardon my being late. No, I'm listening and catching up and coming up and coming up to speed. The
Okay.
education restructuring though is really interesting because I'm kind of in the middle of both of those sentiments. There is a huge argument and benefit for the ability to homeschool, but being realistic, not everyone has that. Not everyone has the opportunity or that ability. But school has always been what it's been. It's never really been geared for us as black people, especially not for us as black men. So, I mean, I went to school, I learned what they wanted me to learn. All the important stuff I learned outside of school.
Right.
Because
Okay.
I had people who pushed me and say, hey, you know, that's all good what you learning in there, but you need to go beyond that. And I had other people to pull me off to the side and say, hey, look, this is, these are important things. My dad was there, so he taught me the basic things that I needed to know. He didn't. Unfortunately, a lot of sometimes situationally it kind of gets to what the school isn't teaching it, then it really falls on us to teach it or figure out how to bridge that gap because they're gonna put you in the construct and you got to
Okay.
figure out how to make it work within that and then be able to move beyond.
And in the XY perspective, we went over those topics, especially that was one of our first shows about the relationships with your father and the emotional control aspect of growing as a man. We've done that show now twice, and it's different each time. It's beneficial that we continue to have it because it does change us. But we're gonna shift a little bit now.
Okay.
And I appreciate that comment, Mr. Colston. We're going again, that's always going to be an issue, and it's going to be readdressed later in the show when I bring that back up. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
The next shift I want to do, there's another section in Project 2025. And I don't know how many of you have daughters or granddaughters. I'm representing my five right here. I got my pop out there. Yeah, I'm just saying. That's just I got five coming, you know what I mean? Okay, I'm just let y'all read that for a little bit. Okay. Abortion and family. And remember, these comments specifically relate to our families and our women. So when you get your comments, just make sure you're remembering that we're discussing our families and our women specifically. So try to stay on that topic. All right. The document does not call for an outright nationwide abortion ban, but one of the candidates states that they would not sign such a law, which is good. It does propose withdrawing certain birth control methods from the market and taking away Planned Parenthood. It also refers to a document that suggests the Department of Health and Human Services should maintain a biblically based social science reinforced definition of marriage and family. A biblically based social science reinforced definition of marriage and family. Comment.
We don't want it.
Well,
Good luck. Good luck with that.
Mr. Ferguson, is it? Mr. Ferguson in the middle, man in the middle.
Yes.
What is
Good
a
evening.
biblically based social science reinforced definition of marriage and family?
I mean, I think where I am, I just thoroughly believe this is just a mission to promote white babies. I think we're talking.
Boy, he went there. He did. He did.
Okay, look, it's live. We here. Roll with it. We get dealt with. We get dealt with.
So I can add to that.
Go ahead, sir.
Because I believe the only reason why we want to get rid of the being able to have abortions and stuff like that is because a certain group of people understand that after a while they'll be non-existent.
Right.
So they can go out here and I'm just saying they can have sex with their cousin and all that kind of stuff. And I'm hey man, and keep that race pure. I'm just saying I believe in a little bit of that, man. I really do.
I believe that in the African American community, that we are the ones that have to deal with that the most. And I know of a person that's close to the family that the doctors would not treat because of the abortion law, and they died. So I think that it will affect everybody, but mainly it will affect the African American community to not be able to pursue that. So yeah, there may be other agendas, but I think that we are the majority that have to deal with losing a loved one behind that. So that's just my thoughts.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be careful because I got in a heated debate just yesterday over this similar topic. So I'll say this and I'll explain it if I need to. Uh, Personally, I'm anti-abortion. I wish abortion wasn't necessary. I wish it didn't happen. I am staunchly now and forever pro-choice. Yeah, because once you start peeling back the rights of once you start peeling back the rights and the government starts inserting itself further into that situation, where does it stop? Um, because to the point that was made earlier, yeah, the particular constituency that has been the majority in this country for most of its lifespan is now transitioning into the minority, and they don't like it. They don't understand how to deal with it, and they are fearful. So I do believe that's a big part of why they want to stop and curtail the ability to not procreate. But yeah, that's always going to be a personal decision uh, that needs to be made, and especially when you get into those things where there's no exceptions. At some point, there are should be viable reasons why there are exceptions. But I mean, any ban is bad, but an outright ban is even worse. And when you
Okay.
throw it back to the states, you get into a situation to where now you got people traveling. Now you got different monitoring, potentially got different monitoring situations to monitor them traveling to get medical procedure in places where it is allowed. So you just really regulating women to being third and fourth class citizens almost.
Here we
My,
go.
my opinion.
That's, and that's good that you say that. But I want to readdress that as well. But the question I wanted to is this: maintain a biblically based
Oh,
definition of
to,
marriage and family. I
to
thought
answer
we
that, I
already.
would say who's Bible?
Yeah,
Whose
Let
Bible
me
we talking about first?
exactly.
wait.
Exactly.
Let me ask the question.
The number
let me
one holy one.
let me ask the question because I thought we already had a biblically based definition with man and woman.
Amen.
Mhm.
So since they want the Department of Health and Human Services to maintain this biblical base, should there continue to be a removal or a separation of church and state?
Yes, there should.
Yeah.
Yeah, church and state
Definitely
should
should
be
be.
separated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But really, is it when the state will turn around and penalize you for anything that you say or do that they don't necessarily agree with? It's supposed to be
Mhm.
separated, but is it really?
That's always been a gray area. I mean, we swear on the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I mean, yeah, on the one hand, it's church and state is separate, but on the other hand, they putting it in there as much as possible. So I mean, it's a slippery slope. Like I said, for anything
Okay.
biblically based, I always ask the question, who's Bible? Because everybody ain't reading the same book. We all don't have the same interpretation. I mean, we need to at least be able to know which book we're reading out of, and then we can fight over what we think it mean after that.
Okay. Okay. We got to shift again. I know it seems like I'm rushing through, but I got to get at least through the basic topics, and then we're gonna come back and readdress some of the things. The next one is probably not as deep or in depth. It talks about immigration. Um, Increased funding for a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. Project 2025 also proposes dismantling the Department of Homeland Security and combining it with other immigration enforcement units in other agencies, creating a much larger and more powerful border policing operation. And other proposals include eliminating visa categories for crime and human trafficking victims. The which one party, I guess, is promising to implement the largest deportation program in American history. Thoughts?
Immigration from where?
I don't care. I don't care what kind of wall you build, how big you build. They're going to be just like insects and anything else. You put something here, I'm going there.
Right. And just to be clear, he's not referring to the immigrants as insects. It's an
Exactly.
analogy. It's the analogy that they find a way.
They're
Right.
going to find a way, and they are already doing that.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. And for Mr. Lazarus that asked immigration from where, I'm gonna just say anywhere from outside of the continental United States into the continental United States. We'll just keep it that simple.
And you believe no?
Man,
Do
let
you
me
think
say,
those laws are going to be enforced equally
Wait, okay,
in regards to immigration?
okay. One at a time, though, John. Who's next?
Oh, go ahead, Andre.
I'm sorry, man, but
No.
I have an opinion that I'd like to add,
Okay.
and some of you might seriously disagree with this comment, man, but I don't have a problem with anybody trying to seek better for their family.
Okay.
I don't care about them coming over here, man. I don't care. Because if I was in their position, guess what?
I'll
I'm
be
doing
doing
the same thing.
the
So
same
I
thing.
can't criticize them for what they're trying to do, get to a better place for them and their family. I don't have a problem with that. Now, I mean, I got a problem with it, but I'm saying, look, put anybody in that situation, and you're doing what's best for you and your family, not 99% of the time, but 100% of the time. And so that's where I'm at with that, man. I understand that, yes, we have a legal way of coming over here and all of that stuff. And I understand that we also need a certain amount of them to come over, to get to work and all of that stuff. But man, listen, if you were there and put you in their situation and switch roles, I bet you do the same thing.
And I want to add some irony. I've heard a couple people say that if a certain candidate got elected, they would leave the country. So then my question to them would be,
Where you going?
you would want to be an immigrant going to another country, right? And they were supposed to just accept you because you're coming, right?
Say that.
I want to pose a thought. I agree with what the gentleman just said 100%.
Yes, sir.
I believe that anyone should be allowed in the country to better themselves and their families. But one thing that in the back of my mind that resonates is America is always, and we ain't just talking about Mexico. We're talking about people from the Middle East, Afghanistan, and places that been at war for all of their lives. And when they infiltrate into the United States, I believe that eventually, maybe not tomorrow or next month, but eventually it's going to be a situation where, they're going to hate certain groups, and all of these people are right here, and it could blow into something that we're not prepared for, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
Yes, sir, I do.
I do. Can I tag on to the back end of that? Because it goes
Yes, sir.
back to that homeland security and making it all one thing. That's a good point, but that also speaks to the point why homeland security shouldn't get rolled up into border security. They perform a totally different function. Their job is to look at it from the bigger picture, to look at threats, internal, external, as they coming in. If you put them in there, and now all of a sudden they focusing on policing the border, now they're not doing the other job that they should be doing. Like I said, nothing's going to be 100%, but that should be their focus, to focus on those who come in with ulterior motives or get here and get disgruntled and then decide that they want to do something. That's what Homeland Security is supposed to be investigating and policing.
Okay,
But
but here,
the other,
okay.
okay, and one last point: if they get rid of the exemptions for sex trafficking and war, yeah, where does that stop? How many countries are you now excluding? And what are you going to do about the people that's already here?
I don't think they thought that far ahead yet. They just want to see the wall go up and the immigrants go away. But here's how it impacts us. Does immigration, does immigration, however it is, have an impact on black jobs? Or they were so affectionately called black jobs.
I say no.
No.
We're not even interested in the jobs.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. That's
I
right.
second that. Yeah, I'm not trying to do those jobs. That's not where I'm at.
So here's what I believe. Here's what I believe. If you're seeking political asylum somewhere else, you maybe don't even speak the language. You don't maybe have the education. You don't have the backup, the family support. You don't have any of that, which if you can come in, some of them don't even have shoes and clothes. If you can come in like that and take the job that I'm working, I need to go to school or something. I need to do something else. So why am I worried that you're coming in taking jobs? As I just stated, none of the jobs that we can do. So,
yeah. Well, but the only thing about that is that, again, how many times any one of us in our communities have been given free education, $4,000 a month to jump into certain trainings and get better at doing certain things, $150K to get a house, right? And oh, by the way, I'm gonna give you $150K to start your own business. And one of the things that was discussed as to why such things happen is because when you live in the United States, you're looked at as being a consumer, whereas immigrants coming in are looking at somebody who's going to produce things, right? They're going to set up businesses and going to do a bigger and better thing, which if you look at this over totality of this matrix, the further you go into be understanding how it works, the bigger you go into it, the more rewards it is, because you're participating in this matrix as a corporation.
Okay,
Now,
wait.
we're going down that rabbit hole. That's a different issue, right?
Right.
So from that perspective, I 100% have a problem with them being funded for housing and getting certain, all that's separate though, right? So I agree with that point. But as far as them actually coming over here for whatever reason, then that's my thing.
Right. So that is the point what Mr. Massey is talking about, that we here on this program now has to step up together and now create something that can bring awareness to, wait a minute, we already here, we're consumers, we're producers. Where's our 150K for a home? Where's our 50,000 for a business to start? Where's our, because I'm a plumber or I'm an electrician. I want to get this business going. Where's my money? Where's my help? But we don't get it. So that's just something that we have to keep in mind, that that's going to be for us as men to change. We can't rely on anybody else to change it for us. That'll never happen. So we have to decide and find out something that we need to do together as a unit and get that argued in our favor. But I want to shift again and keep going. Unless anybody have one more comment with that, we give another minute or so to a comment.
Yeah, just real quick point. We always have to keep in mind that these folks are just into extreme control, and it's always skewed to whatever objectives they have. I'm really grateful to be a part of this discussion, because whatever they say, if they say left, I think right. They say, look right, I'm looking left. The intentions, to mess with Homeland Security is just extremely concerning. I just don't understand how the whole border control thing needs to be something that, it's the way they want to set that up is just, all I can say is just super concerning. It's just up. I was listening to a guy real quick just to make this point. This white guy, he says, well, how would you deal with, sending people out of this country? What about them? What about the fact that, we're talking about families? And he was just so flippant with it. Just round them up and send them back, his whole entire families. If the fact that you would even give them that control, where does it stop?
Doesn't. And that's a good point. That's a good point to make. The slippery slope we talked about. Once you go over, you just got, and I guess some people are nationalists, whether it's white nationalists or black nationalists, and they want it all one nation. I've never dissected those kinds of one nation under God. What do you mean by one nation? One united nation where everybody, but so we can go into all of that. So where does it stop? That's a good point to make. But again, these are some things that we have to address as a unit if we want it argued in our favor. Because once they get their train rolling, I'm not saying who they is, but once the train gets rolling, you can't stop it. And we can't stop it now. But really, if we give that much control to one person or people, then the other people will suffer. If we want to move into really quickly, climate and economy, and this is going to be a big one. So I might as well get it out there. We want to talk about some of the things that Project 2025 addresses on the climate and the economy. This document proposes slashing federal money for research and investment in renewable energy. Carbon reduction goals will be replaced by efforts to increase energy production and energy security. Economics advisors suggest that a certain administration would slash corporate and income taxes abolish the Federal Reserve, and even consider a return to gold-backed currency. I know we got a comment on that. Hold on. Hold on. And this paper sets out two competing visions on tariffs and is divided on whether the next president, he or she, should try to boost free trade or raise barriers to imports. Thought.
Ooh, I gotta speak to that gold comment because when I read that I started laughing. Um, it'll never happen in this country. We'll never go back to the gold standard. It's impossible
Why
because
is
that
that?
means because if you are on the gold standard, then
Mhm.
that means every dollar that you have is backed by actual physical, tangible assets, which is gold. So that means we ain't just gonna be printing money willy nilly. The reason we came off of the gold standard was so we could do what we do now. So
Mhm.
if you go to the gold standard, if let's say we go to the gold standard right now, that means every dollar moving in the US would have to have the equivalent amount of gold backing it. We as a country can't do that. If we could, we would. We don't. So that part, I mean, it's a great idea, the talking point. In actuality, that really won't happen. It's no way that can happen.
Anybody agree or disagree?
I agree.
Agree. Anybody
Agree.
disagree?
But I think the only way you can follow through that is every state decided to play as their own country. They're no longer a state; they're their own country. Back and even then, they did a thing where they said nobody would come out looking rich, right? So, and the other thing is when you start talking about that carbon footprint. I don't know if y'all have been looking at the news, what they're talking about. And I think they've already started. So, say like you own a bunch of land and you got a bunch of trees on it and all that other good stuff. Depending on the amount of carbon print that you create, you could be getting rich by the number of trees you have on your land, right? But also, they're going to use that as a way to say, if you go on a trip or anything, how much carbon footprint do you leave behind? So, if you do a certain amount of carbon footprint, you're limited to how many trips you can take, how far
Mm.
you can go into the next city and state.
Mm.
So they're literally boxing people in with this double talk that we're trying to make the world a better place.
Right. So you have to realize the terminology that they used and how that can be skewed to fit a certain narrative, like saying somebody would have access to something. If I'm going to make it so everyone would have access to this, we got to have access to it, but does that mean we're going to get it? Yeah. So reducing the carbon footprint, yeah, it sounds really good. Cost. So you have to be real careful about believing on the surface what they say, and I'm just using the loose term they. What they say is not really what they mean. Any other comments about the economy?
What did you say? Import or what did you say?
The
Tariff.
two competing visions on tariffs, and it's divided on whether the next president should try to boost free trade or raise tariffs or barriers on.
Well, you just that's what I wanted to hear. So I was watching this economist on YouTube, and he said when you talk about raised tariffs or taxing imports, he said other countries and other nations hear this, so they just almost bundle it in the price that we pay for it. So it really it comes back to the consumer. So
That
even though we raise the price or raise the tariffs on importing, they're not stupid. They just raise the price on it, the overall price, and at the end, we still end up paying. So you can take, I guess, if you want a political win, you say I raised the price on the tariffs. But the other countries, they say, okay, we'll just raise the overall price, whether it's raw materials or whatever. So in the end, who's gonna pay? It's gonna come back on the consumer.
Anybody want to come in? Anybody?
They're not just at the will of the U.S. on everything.
I
Right.
want to comment on that because
Okay.
really, and I say that's a great point. But whether you raise tariffs or increase or promote free trade, neither one of them is solving the true problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
We don't actually create or
We do
produce
not.
the things that we need. So in one way or another, we got to get it from somewhere else. I mean, you can promote free trade, you can raise the tariffs, but
Yeah.
until you start addressing the fact that we're not actually producing and manufacturing the stuff that we consuming, we always going to be a slave to that situation one way or another.
Exactly. And that was the overall point. So he's like, you can, it sounds good as a political win to say you
Hmm.
did that. But I mean, at the end, we're going to be the ones who paying more. I mean, look at our grocery store bill right now.
Well, let's look at that. Let's look at that real quick. We got a few minutes. We're a little ahead of schedule, so I'm gonna throw some out here. This is on any of your notes. This thing about inflation. I wanna bring up inflation on how prices are going up, or is it corporate greed? I looked it up. Inflation is only like at 7%, so that's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. So I want to know: do you think it's more the prices being driven up is more inflation based or corporate greed based?
Ooh, can I add a kicker to that? Because when you talk about inflation, you can't talk about inflation without talking about shrinkflation. Because
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely some corporate greed going on. Inflation's raising the prices, corporate greed. I don't know about y'all, but I'm looking at the size of the stuff that I'm buying, and it ain't what it used to be. Like
Yes, sir.
size wise, it's saying it's less. The toilet paper is smaller, the paper towels are smaller, even the Coke bottles are small. They're just barely getting there. It used to be 16 ounces. I seen it's about 14.5 ounces. And you still want to charge me $2.59. I mean, that's greedy.
Where
And
you live at?
where I'm in PA. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm about an
Okay.
hour outside of Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I mean, I see it. I mean, the
Any
groceries is higher, the prices is higher, but you paying more for what you used to get, but when you buying it, it's smaller than what it was.
anybody else?
Okay. Well, definitely your purchasing power is no longer there like it used to. And I don't think people really understand how really detrimental inflation is and how much it really robs you of that purchasing power.
Yes,
They
sir.
put an article out there saying that the new middle class is 500K. If you ain't making 500K, you're not middle class.
That's I ain't even gonna. That's a statistic.
I'm just saying. So, but when you go into the grocery store, like said
So we
before,
just broke as hell, huh? We
yeah,
just
you got
everybody in here just broke as hell, huh?
yeah,
I
you
am
got
according to
people.
that, that's for sure. I am not middle class, brothers, not at all.
500K. That's man, that's
500K
crazy.
is the new middle class. All right, and
So the irony of it is, if we go back to a gold standard and create more power in the dollar, inflation is thereby eliminated. Right? You can't
Yeah,
inflate something if it's set at a standard with gold backing it. You can't raise the price on it because you're not getting any more gold. So the dollar gets stronger. You can't inflate. You have to change laws.
yeah, but you stepping
So
into the trap because if we go to the gold standard and we ain't got enough gold to cover all them dollars that we've been printing, guess what? Now we forfeit. And if I'm one of them other countries, I'm calling it in. Oh,
oh
you want to
yeah,
go to gold standard? Okay,
oh yeah,
cool. Let me
oh
That,
yeah.
hit you up for what you
but
owe
that is
me. Let me
for
go ahead and
that
get
very
that.
for that very reason is the reason why Nixon took us off because the
Hmm.
country started calling for it.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, give me my gold.
Yeah.
I can cash this in at any time. Give me mine.
Yep.
And for those of you that are old enough to have lived through that, I mean, I came in right after that. But it's one of the reasons why being a global superpower, though, if you always have that ace in the hole, I can just come smack you up. You call for it, okay? I'm gonna come give you some 1-2 left hooks with my military and just
Yeah.
take what I want. Agree or disagree?
Oh, well, they're doing that straight up with
Oh, I
devaluing the dollar. Who's devaluing the dollar? It's us, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, are we trying to do what we call a bankruptcy because we didn't got so beyond we can't even pay the interest on our on our debt, right?
Right.
So, are we trying to bankrupt ourselves and go to a new currency? So now all bets are off, right? Because we're all into a new different currency, whether that be digital, bricks, whatever.
Okay.
Uh, and if you look at some of the moves of the billionaires and trillionaires, they tend to be going towards pulling their money out any way they can to go buy other assets.
Yeah.
And this is why I want to warn us too, as men too, especially us who seem to be in charge of families. You have to start now preparing your children and grandchildren for future endeavors either outside of the US or in a very, very secluded type of living situation inside of the US. I think money's going to be in shambles. They have to have the education and knowledge as far as financial literacy. You have to start teaching them these things like in life insurance policies and its benefits, IULs, trusts, all of these things have assets saved so you can save something generationally to pass to them besides your funeral debt. So we as men now have to take back our families and communities and lead a different way, both like working smarter, not harder. I'll say that word. We got to work smarter. And the game is being played the long way. We think in short term, what can we do now? We need to start thinking the long way and what can we prepare our children and grandchildren for? And what can we set them up to enjoy some of the benefits that we won't be here to necessarily get? Any comments on that?
Yeah. The word on the street is you can either go to Africa and hang out with you, or I can go down there and hang out with Dre Day and get on some of his land. That's the word.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You better have an exit plan. But you're right. I don't think I'll speak for myself. I'm not a stranger to growing up on candlelight dinners every now and again when I was a kid. So I don't think people who've been in these rough situations and patches before won't have a problem to adapting. I think the ones who never had to adapt, that's where you're going to have to start looking for more than just how to feed yourself. How are you going to protect what you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of people talking about they got, self-sufficient power and everything else. But if you're sitting out there, the only one on the block with lights, what you think's going to happen?
Somebody coming for your lights.
Yeah.
They're coming for your lights. So before we go to the next topic, this is the XY perspective. My name is Marcus Bradley. The panel is here. We are getting live, but we haven't even reached the meat and potatoes of it now, which we're about to get into. So if you're on YouTube and you got a comment, type that comment into the live chat that you got, and we will be able to see those here. Then we can answer those if we got time. And those of us joining live on Facebook as well, please write down the comments and we can address those. I'll even send them out to the panel and let them address them if they would like to, and if they got some free time. But we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. So right now we're 52 minutes in, gentlemen. Are y'all ready for the meat and potatoes?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. The meat and potatoes is technology and education. Project 2025 addresses a number of issues about technology and education and other personal things. So I'm going to read off one of these. And each time I read off one, I just want to see if you got a quick comment, like a minute and a half, maybe on each comment. So the first bullet is under these proposals, pornography will be banned and tech and telecom companies that allow access will be shut down. Agree or disagree?
Definitely agree, shutting down the pornography, because that's how we ended up trying to figure out what we're dealing with man and woman, right? Putting all these ideas in people's minds, right?
Yes, sir.
But when you also open that door up, like you said, telecommunications, right? So I don't know about your phone bill lately, but if some people seen their bill go up crazy, and when I don't know if we're still under the Patriot Act, but they're still allowed to track you if they think that you're a threat, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yes. Oh
So,
yeah.
So
I know most of the panel is conservative viewing on a lot of these type things, but then we're liberal also on some of the things and issues. The conservative dad in me, who has daughters and granddaughters, I don't care about it being banned. I don't care at all. I got a super sexy wife. I don't even need to look up. I just look across the bed. I'm good.
so
I'm real good.
so
But there are people who are not as lucky as me, who may need that. We were all young once, and for me, I had to sneak and look at JCPenney catalogs when I was little.
Mm. Man, you couldn't even get the jet, the beauty of the week, man. You had to go JC Penney's.
Yeah. Hey, my uncles them had the Jet magazines. I couldn't even get hold of them, so they had those. So I got what I could. I did what I could. I ain't know no better. I ain't know.
How do you
Oh man.
how would they regulate that? I mean, that's the concern I have. I mean, that's a very addictive thing for many folks, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And the thing is, that's a whole lot of control. Again, what's going to happen when you violate these things is the thing that you know I tend to focus on.
Well, thank you for getting us back on track. Who wants to answer that?
I got a quick one.
But we can say that about anything in this whole project 2025. It's all about
Right.
control,
Yeah.
right? I mean that is the staple of that's the staple of some people, right?
Right.
You
Right.
want to be in control, man. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's
You have utility companies now saying we're not going to be mailing out anymore, um, paper bills. And so if you don't got the internet, then you may not get that bill. And so now your lights is off. And so looking at this issue, well, okay, you keep going here. So now your internet is going to be taken off of you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, you feel me?
Yeah,
Yep.
no,
Or
it's
or
interesting.
or
It's
slow
interesting that he
down to.
says that.
Okay.
Real
Go
quick,
ahead. Go.
it's interesting that he says that because I have a brother who literally he's handicapped, but they forced him, right, to get rid of his internet service, which he was getting at a discount, because they wanted him to have their internet service. They forced it, and it rolled all up into one with his rent.
Mm.
And so they were able to get him to use the service that they had provided and charge him
Yep.
what they wanted him to pay. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
And that
I,
and that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I got one last thing on that. So I think all of us I think all of us would agree what we define pornography as now, but especially since we talk about control. So you get rid of all of what we would all agree is pornography. What happens when they start expanding that?
I
Because
agree. Yep.
you know what I'm saying? That
Yep.
they say we pornography as it's defined now is one thing. What happened when they start defining that? When they start broadening that? Now this is pornography. Now the J.C. Penney catalog is
Yeah.
pornography. Now the Beauty of the Week is pornography. Oh, that's Sports Illustrated. That's porn. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, it's all about control. It's like, okay, we take the stuff we all agree upon, and then they just slowly push the edge out. And then what happens at that point?
Yeah, exactly.
That all
Exactly.
goes to that vague definition you read earlier, Marcus. Religious. I forgot
Biblically
what you called it
based.
because it was so vague. Because it's open ended. You got to look at the language. They're not
Right.
giving
There
explicit
you go.
language on.
What do they mean? What do
Yeah.
they mean by banning pornography?
Well, like
Because
Mike
let's
said, if they don't make it as explicit, like if it's not concrete, that means that it can be agile. They can continue to add to the definition. Well, we didn't mean this. We mean this and this. Okay, we mean
so
this and this and this. So, like you said, porn, cool. Get rid of it. It doesn't bother me. But when they start to expand that scope of what it means,
Mhm.
I can't watch a movie that has maybe a love scene in it, or
right now
read a
you're
book,
talking.
what if I, anything? But who's
So
defining that? Yeah.
and the thing I wanted to add to it before we go to the next bullet point is, are y'all familiar with OnlyFans?
Okay.
Right, it's free
Yeah,
commerce.
yeah.
It's free commerce. It's a freedom of choice,
Mhm.
and the NBA made $614 billion in profits last year. Last year, OnlyFans models and those contracts and those people made $666 billion. Now, eliminating that would take away their way to make money. Is that fair to them, or do we continue to allow something like that to exist, but then take away other freedoms and protections? Any comments on that?
Yeah, well, I think that deals with what, the heated argument I got into yesterday. Does that morally bankrupt you if we decide to go a certain way, right?
Like I said, because I'm conservative in a lot of things. As a father, I'm conservative. I don't want my daughter doing OnlyFans, and I want my granddaughter to see their mother doing OnlyFans and stuff like that.
No.
But then, but having freedom of choice, I lean the other way. I want people to have freedom of choice. Should that freedoms be regulated or impacted? No.
Yeah.
But then you can't have totally free systems. You got to limit some things. So here we go back to the slippery slope of where do we draw the line?
Well, I'm gonna say this on OnlyFans, and I may be in the minority, but a lot of what's making money on OnlyFans made money on other platforms before OnlyFans. It'll find another platform and another way to make money, beyond OnlyFans. I mean,
Right.
it's always. I mean, for those who parvey in that type of thing, is always going to be an avenue to make money. I don't want to be cruel because I mean, you are dependent on somebody who building this as their business, but that business been around, and hey, that's a recession proof, inflation proof business right there. It always make money somewhere.
So it's just like marijuana and the stigma that comes along with it. It used to be terrible. Go to jail for it. Now you can walk down the street with it. You won't even get in trouble.
Way too many people walk down the street with it.
It reminds me of that joke that you have the guy on the street, he's a pimp, but Hugh Hefner was an entrepreneur. It just, and how do they define it? Who's defining it? If I look at this man, he's an entrepreneur, Playboy Mansion. Politicians and celebrities wanted to be around him, but the guy on the street, he was a thug, he was a pimp. He was once again, like Andre said, and Brother Mike says, who's defining it?
Yes, sir.
Who's defining it? Yeah.
Yes, sir. We're gonna move to the next bullet. I know it's only gonna get worse from here, guys. So it's only gonna get worse. The document also calls for school choice and parental control over schools. It takes aim at what is called woke propaganda. And if you don't know what school choice is, it's a program currently operating in 32 states plus Washington, D.C. And it primarily benefits children from low-income families and students with special needs, allowing them to select the school that their kids would go to. Any comments before I ask a question on that? No?
Didn't they always have the choice or the right to choose what school they go to anyway?
Not in every state. Not in every state. Most states have what they call zone schools. If you live within, I guess, like 2 miles or walking distance of a school, you have to go to that school.
Yes.
And for what mostly low income families, where do they live? In the hood. If you only got 2 miles to go, all them hood kids go to the same hood school. And then you get lean on me.
I
You get lean on me and Joe Clark.
I give you an exception to that because I live in PA now, but I grew up in Alabama. So there was an exception to not going to school in your hood. You could, when they were trying to make that 50% ratio of black students and white students, you could actually apply and get bussed out to schools. So then you got to be the 49.6% at the school, but that was the only exception. Other than that, you had to go to your school in the hood, and a lot of places still are like that.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was able to transfer to another school. I didn't have to go to my neighborhood school. I was able. They call it an M&M transfer. I was able to go to another school.
Back in the day, you got bused. We were all living fine, ghetto fabulous in the public schools, right? And then they came and said, wait a minute, we're going to send you 45 minutes out there in the cornfields so you can share, lockers with little Johnny. Well, we didn't have no choice. They did what they wanted to with us.
It had an adverse effect on the Indianapolis public school system because I graduated from the Indianapolis public school system at Arlington High School. Shout out to the Golden Knights. 1996, they turned into selective school, which you can then pick the school. And what they thought was more kids would select the public schools to go to. But what happened was the public school kids unasked the area and just vacated all of.
I'm out.
So now they had to start closing the public schools because they didn't have the population. They couldn't meet the number of kids, the minimum number of kids to keep the school open. So now my high school that I graduated from turned into a community high school, and now it's a middle school at least. So it's changed all over the place.
Yeah.
So there are
Did
some pros
the
and cons
taxes
to it.
change with that though?
And then
I don't.
schools lost out. The public schools wound up losing out on money, and then even more schools had to close.
Right. So now they're going to these charter schools and other things of that nature. So that the whole thing I wanted to ask on is, should parents be allowed or have the right to direct their child's education in school?
Yeah, I know in some
I'm gonna say
places
yeah.
the parents have the ability to voice their opinion about the curriculum.
Okay.
I say
Through the school board.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, they should have it, but at the same time, I mean, again, if you're telling me I can go have a choice of what school my kid goes to whatever curriculum that I want them to go to and so forth, then I mean, it's a moot point with that. But if I can't, then of course, yeah, I should be able to say, hey, this curriculum needs to be changed out.
Okay. I agree with that. But here's the thing: what we don't usually hear about in these election cycles, you get to vote for your school board. It's not just about deciding who the presidency is, because that's chosen by the Electoral College. Your vote really matters on the local elections and things that impact your everyday life, like the school board. And you want people with your views to be on the school board, you got to go and vote those people in. And if those people don't exist, you have to become that person. If you feel that passionate about it, and become a school board member, get elected, and make creative and effective change inside the schools, or homeschool, which again, as we stated, Black families are the most growing number the last 2 years, the highest percentage of growth in homeschools anyway. So this woke propaganda thing, we all know what that means. Do we have to elaborate on what we think woke propaganda is?
No, but I heard the announcer on TV said, what if they start teaching this new slavery mess in school? I mean, so it's like redefining. It's
New slavery?
Yeah, new slavery. Yeah, he literally said that.
What is he talking about, though?
Well, we're not going to say the other name, and that's when he was saying how he wants to get rid of the Department of Education, and he literally. So you have to watch. See, woke started as a small definition, and then now it's all encompassing. Now, if they disagree with it, so like this other guy just pushed back. He said, "But if it's history, it's history." So once again, we got control. Now they're redefining history. So it all goes back to what all the brothers on this call are saying, all some type of form of control. Yeah. Okay. New slave. The new slave. So.
New slavery. Wow. I didn't like the old.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a calendar.
I know I ain't gonna like the new one. So okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all either.
No, I don't even know what it is. And I don't like it. I hate it already. I hate it.
Yeah.
No vote. No on 16. Okay. Project 2025 proposes, and this is a sensitive subject for us because I'm going to assume that we're all heterosexual males on this panel. I'm going to assume that. If I'm wrong, let me know. It proposes to eliminate a long list of terms from all laws and federal regulations, including sexual orientation, gender equality, abortion, and reproductive rights. This means eliminating those words would remove any federal protections for those classes of people, especially in the workplace and in hiring practices.
Man, that's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We talk about how you can regulate. How would you regulate that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're already forced to check an African American box when we get hired anyway. And until recently, I had never even been to Africa. So how my father's not African, my mother's not African. How and why are we forcing to check an African American box? And Mr. Massey, I know what you want to say.
I was gonna say he got an answer for you.
Well, you already
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
he
ahead.
got
Go
a
ahead. We got a
yeah.
little time. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you already know, and I can't beat the drum on this enough, but you know, it's good that y'all are hearing it enough to know what I think, and what y'all should be thinking is that you have to go and put yourself in your rightful place. Because what is race? What's the government definition of race? Would you believe it's not black? Would you believe it's not white? The government definition is where you're from, you know?
Because who's actually white? Who's actually white?
Again, when you check that box, especially for us, you can't give something to nothing. When you check black, you're saying you're nothing.
Mm.
Right? And they know that you're not African American, so technically speaking, you're lying. So I can treat you hostile because of that, because they said something to the effect. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Simmons, if I get stopped by the police officer and give him my birthday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it hearsay when I tell him I'm born on a certain date and time? Because do I really know I was born on that date and time?
Well,
It can be construed that way, but
okay, so here we go, right? Back to the consumer laws that we have gotten away from, and the common laws that we don't know, right? And we could continue to walk in this straw man of ourselves and get beat across the head with it.
So we've seen them eliminate affirmative action. Which was anybody on the panel an affirmative action hire, or did they know? Did you know of anyone?
I worked in, and I was one of one or one of few. I would say, yeah, that had to apply somewhere along in there. I'm just gonna say I'm good, but I don't know if I was good enough to get in there without that.
Okay. Because now they've done away. So this proposes to end all those dividing terms, which is cool. You get rid of some divisive terms like race. You get rid of those because, I mean, a lot of people as American and not have to be a Black American, African American, white American. We just all want to be considered an American, right? But then it takes away the protection that comes with that, because a Black woman has other certain aspects in the government that allows them to get certain things because they are a Black woman. If you take that away, they no longer get those protections. So again,
can I say,
go ahead.
When you ask about the affirmative action, I have known more than Black people to benefit from affirmative action policies. So we cannot assume. I don't take it as an insult when we say affirmative action. It doesn't bother me one bit, because I know a lot of people who have benefited from affirmative action policies, even though they try to distance themselves from it, whether it's gender. I've known some veterans. I've known, all kinds of people. So we have to, I may be different. Doesn't bother me. It's not an insult to me, because once I get in there, I'm going to outperform most people anyway. So
there you go.
It just doesn't bother me. But
I like having my veterans preference.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a good thing, as you should receive some benefits. But I don't take it as an insult, because many people have benefited from affirmative action policies, and it's not an insult just to Black people. Sorry, that one just bugged me. I've had that debate.
Oh, you good. Anybody else want to come in? Huh?
Real quick, when you remove all them terms and you get rid of diversity, the DEI. When you remove all of that, you moving toward a more homogenous America. We seen how that worked, and we seen who don't get to go into that bowl of homogenized milk. A lot of them look like us, in various shades and shapes, and and women. And when we talking about who's benefited the most from affirmative action, I always like to throw in there, because a lot of people, act like it don't exist. White women have benefited greatly
Number one.
Mm.
Number one.
From affirmative action, because they was locked out for a long time and they just slid right behind us, and then once they got through the threshold they just left us right on behind, moved right on
Well,
past.
that was what the whole feminist movement was about. And then they suckered our women into it to borrow their strength, because we was like CMB back then. We all we got. But black people were married at an 80% clip, even after slavery, even after Jim Crow, even through segregation. We were married, so we had each other. Then along came a spider and changed the feminist movement from a white woman's movement to a woman's movement. And then that just pulled our sisters away from us. But that's a whole different thing. I'm sorry about that. Quick question. Do you live in a state that bans pronouns? And I'm going to name these states: Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Indiana, Tennessee, Iowa, Kentucky, Montana, North Dakota, and Utah. And does that play a difference in what you think about whether you're going to stay in your state or not, or whether you're going to leave the state or not? Is it banning pronouns and other use of those terms?
No, I don't think that's gonna make me decide yea or nay to move to a place or not.
Right.
But I could tell you, looking at how states move with that will make you realize that what else are they thinking about doing, right? And I can tell you, I've never been so in tune about states and their state constitution and what do they mean than ever before, in town hall meetings, and what does Mayor Blasey believes in, and all that great stuff that I've never had to be so in tune with over these last couple of, like I have to be over these last couple of years.
Okay.
Because when you go back to education, again, like Arizona, one of the things I love about Arizona is that they say if your kid goes to college or goes to high school here, they pay for college if they stay in state.
Nice.
You know?
I didn't know that.
Same thing happens here in Tennessee as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they have a thing where if you homeschool, well, the money that you spend to take your kid on educational programs, whether it's Gravity at Disney World or, go to the zoo or whatever, you got up to $7,000 that you can write off.
Okay. I didn't know that either. I wonder if they got that in North Carolina, because they need to have food in that, because homeschooling 2 teenage boys, these dudes eat everything.
Oh, I believe it.
I want to write off some of these groceries.
Put them to work. But I can tell you, being from the state of North Carolina, they just say, hey, turn around.
Just a flat out no, huh? No chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 2 more bullets with that. And this one y'all gonna love it. Project 2025 aims to end diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in school and government departments as part of what is described a wide crackdown on woke, there's that word again, woke ideology, which means equity programs in schools that aim to provide equal opportunities and end all support for students from reaching their full potential. Some strategies for promoting equity that they want to remove include resource allocation, inclusive teaching, diverse teaching methods, trauma-informed education, like slavery, equitable education options, flexibility, and forgivable student loans, because you take away the exceptions and the protections, so student loans get privatized and they're no longer backed by the government.
Man, let me say this. I mean, we're hearing this stuff, right? And we're laughing and giggling, and some of it is amusing. So we think, right? But let's be clear, man, that some of this stuff could actually happen, right? I mean, we be serious. This stuff actually can take place.
Yeah.
So, and I know we're not outright mocking it, but this stuff, a lot of this stuff, man, is a real can really happen.
Yes, sir.
No, I agree. I don't, and I know we kind of laugh and kid a little bit, but some of that's a trauma response. Because I mean, I'm looking at six faces, and I know some of this stuff on some levels that we talked about. We all have experienced either directly, personally, or within
Mhm.
our sphere of family or friends.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily, we laugh about it because it's funny. Some of it's a trauma response, and
No, I
and
wasn't. I wasn't mocking. I
oh
wasn't
no, no,
saying that.
I got you.
I'm just saying that this stuff is a real
No,
possibility.
oh, absolutely. And to your point, I'll say this: regardless of how next Tuesday go, whichever candidate get in, just because we get the one that ain't back in the project 2025, let's not act like this stuff, like you said, this stuff can still happen. The people
Yes.
who authored this still have particular seats in power. They still have influence. We all know what pork barrel politics is, oh, we got something good, let's roll this in here while they ain't looking. It absolutely can happen, which is a good thing why we actually going over it and pulling out it and highlighting it, because it needs to be discussed. It needs to, we need to be aware of it, particularly
And
us.
and I know a lot of brothers. And again, I'm not telling you which way to vote at all, but it's being tossed around that a lot of us brothers are leaning let's say a certain way that we haven't leaned before in greater numbers this election cycle. All I'm trying to do with the XY perspective is for brothers like us to bring about awareness that comes along with certain candidates. Like
Hmm.
one candidate is bringing a certain agenda that we can't even talk about on this platform because we'll get canceled. And another candidate is bringing people that back Project 2025. And make no mistake about it, if a certain candidate gets in, this is, like Andre said, this is going to happen.
This the
Not a
playbook.
could.
Yeah, this the play.
They're telling you what they're going to do if they get in. They are telling, this is what we want to do to you, because it don't impact them. It impacts you. And when they tell you, oh, your vote for president doesn't matter, this is what they want to sneak in. Oh, it don't matter no way. You don't even go vote. Don't even. It does matter. But they want to make it so hard to go and vote. And there are many of millions and millions of us who actually passed away in this country that never even got a chance to vote. I vote for those people because they never had their voices heard. And after 23 years of serving in the United States, when I was contractually obligated to not say nothing, I did execute my orders. Now I'm free from that obligation. I can say something. So I created a platform where us brothers can use their voices collectively to say something. So all I want you guys to keep in mind that once we get to a certain point, and I think we're at this level, we got to stop talking so much and actually start doing. And I think we've been at this now for it's 3 years now. We're in the third year of the XY perspective. We have got to start acting on this. We can keep talking about it and make people more aware, but we have to start acting. We got to meet in person. We got to get petitions. We got to get people in places that have influence so we can get to argue the points that we want to make change for us, because we've dropped the ball in our community. It's our fault. We can say, oh, it was the government. It's us. It's us. We didn't make ourselves important enough to our own community where our ladies could choose government income over a husband. So they chose the income because it was easier for them. We didn't make ourselves more important. We allowed them to dictate to us what we were, and we just laid over and took it. Because we wanted to see black boys and white boys eat at the same lunch table, when that wasn't everybody's dream in the first place. It was one particular dream, but it wasn't everybody's.
Right.
So we have to now change that narrative that we just gonna turn the other cheek and get along fine. It's not. I don't have the two cheeks, and I'm not turning not one, because I ain't finna get hit in my face. You ain't got no turn to hit me, and I'm not gonna turn the other cheek. I'm hitting back. I'm not my grandfather or my great grandfather. I'm not. I got these to protect. Anybody got anything? I'm sorry about that rant.
Well, you shouldn't be sorry. Yeah, you shouldn't be sorry.
Yeah, you said it best. But I think also what we need to look at is what you talked about earlier, is that whole thing with education, is that nobody's really talking about if they do what they want to, that means you're limiting civil rights in schools as well, that they're talking about taking away. And if you're talking about, that type of thing, well, you're not putting your kids in a system that's protected for them, right?
But those aren't civil rights. Those are human rights. Everybody should have.
I'm just trying to tell you the civil rights that are in place now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That are in place now. You're going to help overturn those as well with Project 2025. And as they said, the privatization of your loans. Well, now we're making everybody else rich. I mean, you're doing that already now when we go out and take out student loans and stuff like that. But now you're going to make the richer rich that's going to be able to give you those loans.
Mm-hmm.
And so they literally showed that people who cannot go out and just get, tuition off the bat for all 4 years, they go out and take these other loans out at a higher rate because of bad credit.
Well, they'll be privatized then too. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Now who's gonna control the interest rate on that? All right. What does that look like?
Exactly.
And so now there's another payday loan place, right?
Aren't we glad those are in every neighborhood, huh?
Yeah.
It's all a power play, man. Every bit of it's a power play. Better wake up, as they say, and recognize. And I ain't afraid to say, right? I'll go out here, black men, and vote for Donald Trump if you want to. Go ahead.
Okay.
All I can say that to Dr. Dre is that the Democrats have been in for how many years now?
See, okay, time. Woosah, get the pressure point. We can't go down that road on the platform because it's a deep rabbit hole. It's real deep, and we won't come out of that. So let me ask a real easy question. The real us back in. Go ahead.
All the work you've been doing for the veterans, you can see that going out the window too. If you put your face in there.
I don't even want to talk about that because that makes me angry. I don't even want to talk about that. That makes me angry.
All that going out the window.
They want to destroy.
He come to get all that. He come to get all of it.
What he meant by he meant by a certain candidate because they're gender neutral, I guess. So it could be either one of the candidates. You just said he.
Them folks over at Project 2025 coming for all your veteran benefits. There we go. How about that?
There you go. Here's a real easy question to break us back in real quick. Do you think they should bring back prayer in schools? Real easy.
Which prayer are we bringing back?
See, I was trying not to do that. I was trying not to do that. I was trying not to do that.
Okay. What about the Pledge of Allegiance?
I ain't never had a problem with the Pledge of Allegiance until they get mad at students because they don't want to say it. That's your right. You shouldn't be able to make me have to say that. But I don't have a problem with them doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
I mean,
but prayer.
We live in this country. I mean, I don't have a problem with prayer, but the only problem with prayer in school is that it was only ever one prayer. And if that wasn't what you believed, then you were kind of ostracized, and then it was an issue. Even if you respectfully just didn't, you still had. I mean, I knew students I went to school with Jewish students and a couple Muslim students, and I remember they used to get them boys the business. Yo, you need to be praying, and it's like no, but they held firm to their beliefs. But I mean, you got to have some grace in that. If you
if you want to take that out, then what about swearing on the Bible to be sworn into certain positions of the government, where you swear on the Bible or swearing on the Bible before court, tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Well, I mean, if you actually open the book up and read in it, the fact that you swearing on it is hypocritical in the first place in a country that's supposed to have separation of church and state. So I mean, how much more hypocrisy you want to throw on that thing? I'm just saying.
But the biggest thing with that is on the money is in God we trust. So that's the biggest demon of all of it, right? The money and the love of it. But in God we trust is printed on every piece of money. So
like I said, the separation is in a real gray area when you start to really look at it.
So it's a real gray area, but it's one that we need to discuss. And I want to ask my dad this, and because we've talked about it before.
I was gonna say we ain't heard from him all night.
Yeah, and that's unusual, right? That's highly unusual. So that's why I want to direct this one right to him, Dad. We've been talking about all these things, and the one thing that I insisted that we do is start a plan of action. What would be, and I know I'm out of order on the notes, what would be a logical first step for Black men to do to bring about change in our specific community? What is a logical first step?
Education, educating ourselves as to what is needed, because we need to come to the table to, like we're doing here, to identify within the Black community what needs to be done. Where did we go wrong? If that's the case, what needs to be corrected? And pliable solutions need to be worked out. That's what happened back in the 60s, late 50s and 60s, because they went to where? They went to the church, which was a location that they could talk, sit down, discuss, and bring these things to point and come up with solutions. Or here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to stop doing. But we have lost that continuity. We don't have that trust. We don't have that belief that we're fighting with the with a need to make changes.
Okay.
There needs to be some changes made, but that starts with us.
Okay.
And like you said earlier, we need to meet in person.
Yes.
And we need to get off platforms that keep us with our hands tied. If we want to say it, say it.
Anybody disagree? Anybody
we have
disagree
lost
with
that
that?
continuity because, again, a lot of folks, let me ask this question in this way. If Project 2025 was thought up, put together, 900 pages or how many pages it came out to be, what's going to happen? Do you actually believe that they are not going to see this through? Whether, I'm not talking about on a national level. Where's it going to start? It's going to start on the local and state levels. When you start talking about not supporting the public schools, all you got to do is not send money to them, and they'll fall in, dilapidate, and all of the students that were coming up in our communities, where are they going to wind up being educated at?
Exactly.
Or the lack of it. Because they're not going to teach you what you need to hear. They're not going to teach you the truth.
No. Anybody? Ooh, silence the panel with that. Wow.
He's right with that education part.
Yeah. Wow.
And hey, Project 2025 is gonna happen, and on the local level is where it all starts. It's your state rep, it's your state senator, it's your it's your township guy, your or your county surveyor, it's your mayor. It's always all of that. Oh, and don't forget, it's the tax assessor. Everybody forget about that one. That is hugely important. Yeah, who you have in there assessing and setting them taxes and interpreting them tax codes is extremely important.
Judges.
And here, my last bullet under technology and education under Project 20. And thanks, Dad, for you get an extra point for completely silencing the panel. You get an extra point for that, because that's never happened.
Well, I tell
even the great Marcus Massey. Wow.
And the reason I have been so quiet tonight is because I know I get long-winded with this type of topic, and I just wanted to absorb, and because again, it's personal, even though it's not personal, it's personal.
Yeah, and we see what happens when you do make a statement. Now you get everybody quiet. So we gotta put you back in the box now. Put you back in the timeout box. We'll bring you out a little bit later.
That'll work.
I was gonna say, man, you asked what can we do now?
Right.
And this might be a little off the cuff or unorthodox for some, man. But I would say start a discipleship.
Okay.
And while we would have, I say we, those that partook in it, would have an agenda to go out and touch the masses, right, with God's word and his knowledge and understanding in it. I would kind of tweak it a bit, right? But if we all were mentors to one, right, and we went out and took that younger brother and mentored him to be better in our neighborhoods and about our business, teach him how to be the men that we should be, and to go out and be able to lead a family the way our families need to be led. That whole thing, right? If we all just took one young person,
Just
right,
one.
and formed one united front, and it can be locally, like it can be where I'm at. I can it just starts with one.
There you go.
And you bring another one into the group and once he comes in, he mentors one. Next thing you know, you've got a group of 10, 15, 20 men that has a young person that they're molding, right? And it continues to grow. Where I'm at, where Mr. Simmons is at, where Mr. Massey is at, so on and so forth. So I would say something like that. Listen, man, I mean, we all have some ideas on things we could do, but I think it's more important to do something.
That is where I'm at. I'm at the point where now I want to do something. And for those of you who don't know now, I can put it out now. I'm moving my family to Johannesburg in South Africa in January. So not only am I going to be doing the XY perspective still here, our monthly calls, I'm going to take the word locally over there, and I want to infect a nation that lacks definition and a progress or a direction. I'll say they got free with Mandela, right? They eliminated apartheid and they got free, but they didn't have a follow-on plan to continue expanding upon that freedom. So they kind of got lost in the shuffle. Now it's just in limbo. What do we do next? And that's been over 40 years. So, and they've gotten the moniker that most South African men are lazy. They just don't have nothing to do. They don't have a purpose. So I would like to take it to where I'm now doing just what you said, Andre, and teaching one or teaching two or teaching a group or going to a church, doing some XY perspective calls there, getting the knowledge out, and I want to get 100,000. I want to get 1 million. I want to push this thing. So I set an example over there for you guys to then do the same here. We can call them chapters. We can call them whatever you want to call it. But each one teach one is a real deal for us brothers, because nobody else is going to do it. And if we keep allowing our women to do it, it'll never happen. At some point, we got to take back the reins, get back in the driver's seat, the steering wheel, whatever you want to call it, whatever analogy you want to use. Because I think we are both accountable for the destruction of our community, and we were responsible for the destruction of the community. Anybody disagree with that? Black men were accountable. We were accountable for the destruction of our own community, and we are responsible for it. Agree or disagree?
Well, I think that's
and especially when you know better, you're supposed to do better. We now know. You can't use that as an excuse anymore.
Come on.
We know what it is out here, man. We know ain't nobody coming to save us.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I had to move my location because my battery was dying on my phone. But I think that society has placed us in a unique situation going all the way back to the 60s. I
Mhm.
mean, just using myself and being honest, my mother and father had a third and fourth grade education. And when they
Okay.
grew up, they just knew to work hard to get to where they were. So I think that we're at a time now where we have more education and can look left and right and bring the young people up to where they need to be. And I'm not just saying that it's like that everywhere. I'm saying that in certain communities, our parents was not educated enough to elevate us to where we need to be in order to help our young people. But right now we are there. And
Right.
moving forward, we got to make sure we do better by our own. So I just
Right.
wanted to share that.
And make no mistake about it, this has been going on a long time. And my dad can tell you a stat about the graduating class with him and my mom in it, and it was a certain stigma with that. But we now have access to information, and we talk about knowledge is power. We have
Agreed.
access to knowledge
I agree.
everywhere we go. Information is everywhere. We just have the inability to use it. I mean, I had to read encyclopedias when I was young. I had to go to the library, or my mom and them had to get robbed on that deal where they got Encyclopedia Britannica in the house. You, they got robbed, but I had access to information. I would just read encyclopedias. I was a boring child sometimes, and I would read books, and I enjoyed reading. But that was information. Little did I know I was gathering information and storing it away. We have access to that now. Why don't we use that?
Well,
Why don't we use this power?
I think that you was groomed a certain way, sir. I think that
Mhm.
everybody doesn't have that unique talent to just sit and go through an encyclopedia, just even sit and read, unless you are groomed. I think that you can learn it at a later stage. I got that, but if
Mhm.
you're not brought up a certain way, it's hard to adapt and just go
Right.
that direction. I just put that out there.
Yeah, but okay. Anybody can let me know what I know. We all agree that education is the first logical step, and that's great. And Uncle Dre doing it that way, educating one at a time, is great too. What about using social media with that? Is there a disconnect there? Can we use social media to influence, or by using social media, do we lack? I mean, do we take away the ability to do things in person?
I like the social media. I mean, I like the platform because it reaches out over a greater span
Mhm.
of people across I mean, in different walks of life.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people shy away from social media. I think that in person is very important at certain times, but social media gives us a platform to reach out and touch people. Like I wouldn't have never known Mr. Massey other than through social media.
Right.
So it's a platform that expand our reach, and I think it's very important to reach as many people as we can to bring them into this platform. I like this. This is my first
Uncle
one.
Dre.
But
But
Uncle Dre.
yes, I think social media is a positive tool. It can be a negative tool as well. But I think used correctly, just like with anything else, it can definitely show benefits.
so
Okay.
let me say this. I kind of agree, right? But there's something to be said about looking somebody in the face,
Come on.
eye to eye, when it comes to building character, building trust, and that kind of thing, right? So I'm not saying that social media cannot help, but I think you have to have just take small groups, right? And then after you get small groups in different areas, then bring them together with the
Come on.
social media, right?
Come on.
Because
Got it.
I'm telling you, the small groups and the person to person has to take place. It
Yes,
has
sir.
to. There's no other way to build trust, character, and those kind of things when I'm 100 miles, 200, 300 miles away from something. I can't do that. At least
Right.
people, my generation, no, we ain't doing that. I want to look you in your eye. I want to feel you. I mean, when I say feel you, not put my hands on you, but I'm talking about your responses, your interaction, the
Right.
eye to eye. I want to
Your
know you
presence.
understanding what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
I
Because
got now. I want to go back to something you said about the access to knowledge. Like we have that access to knowledge, and I think my opinion. Sometimes we have a disconnect. Like I said, there's a difference between having access to knowledge. People collect things. I mean, we all know people who collect things. It's a bunch of people that collect information. They collect information and they don't ever use it. You know, you talk to them, they got a plan, they got a project, this and this and this. They'll collect all the information on it forever, but they never execute. It's the difference between the fact that, hey, I can Google anything and get an answer, but it hits differently than the acquired knowledge that you get from reading, or having to actually, you know there's an effort in order to have to go and find it and seek it. Even for people doing research with Google, if you Google it and it's an easy thing, you get all these answers. That's
You're
different than
not
when you got
retaining.
to dig. Yeah, it's
You're
different
not
when you got to
retaining.
dig. Exactly. So I think it's a difference between acquired knowledge and just having access to knowledge. Because if you really
But
think
see,
about it, we got more access to information than we've ever had. And I think on a lot of levels, we're less
I went
intelligent and less effective with it.
I went over that earlier when I said you got to be careful of the terminology too, and I even used it myself. We have access. Remember, I
Hmm.
said we have
Yep.
access, but do that mean we use it? No.
Yeah.
So having access doesn't mean you have the knowledge.
Hmm.
So, like you said, you have to actually go get it and retain it. One of my sons here was like, Mr. Marcus knows a lot of stuff. And I'm like, I just know a little bit about a lot of things, but he doesn't understand. I spent most of my childhood when I couldn't go outside, I was reading encyclopedias, gaining what I thought was useless knowledge. But now, it comes back and I spent a lot of time on deployments, reading books. I spend a lot of time just reading itself. I enjoy reading. I get lost in the fantasy of it sometimes. It's my home away from home sometime when I need to regather my thoughts. I pick up a book and read it. So we have access, but how do we use it? And the thing about using it, like Uncle Dre said, coming together first allows me to feel your energy, like your reaction to what I'm saying. Are you just saying, yeah, 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 and then it's going in one ear and out the other and not being retained? Or I'm seeing you get riled up, I'm seeing you get amped up, and that makes you want to go into take action. A lot of us don't want to take action. We just want to talk about it. And unfortunately, it's a lot of us at our age because we're tired. We got all the experience to talk about, and we're so tired from just working. Like for myself, and I know y'all work longer than me. I started working when I was 17 in the military. I'll be 47 on my birthday. So for the last 30 years, I've just been going and going and going and going. And I am just tired.
Hmm.
I am just worn down to the nub. I just want to sit down and rest. But now is the time when I got to act the most because I'm free to do so. And if I wasn't so tired, I'd be up running around here. But I'm just tired. Anybody agree with that?
Uh, I, well, Mark, I say this, man. You might be tired,
Mm-hmm.
but man, you have to find a way to get re-energized, man.
Oh, now here, I'm glad you said it. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well,
No
no,
problem.
I'm just saying, look, I'm a little older than you, look, quite a bit older than you. And yeah, man, we all get weary, but
Yeah.
still we have much work to do, whether it be on a personal or family or whatever it is. We have work to
When,
do, man.
when I say I'm tired, it's like I want to rest. Yeah. But when I see something, like I said, when I get across seas and I'm actually able, now I don't have to go to work and I spend 12 hours on my work days at a job. Now, when I go over, I won't have to do that. So I got that extra time to now get back out into the streets, into the communities, and do those things. I'm not bound by the rules of I got to work to eat. See, over there, lifestyle will be easy living, and I can then focus my energy into change and education and teaching like I want to do. So I'm in no, I'm not tired in the sense where I want to quit and give up. Because once I know, I ain't gonna say once the revolution starts. We're not talking about that. When we do take action, best believe if I'm not taking the first step, I'm right next to the person who is.
It must be televised, people. Hey, but Brother Massey, man, he inspires me, man, constantly. He
Yes, sir.
inspires me, man, to keep going on and never give up. Don't fight. Don't stop. Don't stop. As Brother Massey, we all got somebody that continues to motivate us. And I got to get out of here, man, because it's getting late because I got to get up in the morning. But I'm going to say this, man. I love this show. I always have, you know that. I love the people that you gather together to present it. And if we develop a plan, you already know. I'm right there. I got
Put your
them
email.
arms ready.
Everybody put their emails in the chat so we can have those.
Arms ready.
Everybody put their emails in the chat so we can have those. We can keep this thing growing. And the next show, because we're coming up on the end here, the next show is going to be around the end of November. And that show is going to be repentance and forgiveness. And because there is a difference. And one is for the other person and one is for your own salvation. So I think as men, we have to understand what we're doing, like understanding the difference between accountability and responsibility. You know, that's important. So repentance and forgiveness in the end of November, that show is coming up. Everybody put the name in the chat or the email in the chat so I can keep y'all on notice about that. I want to thank everybody personally, myself, for coming to the show, giving their opinions, not going off the rails. I know it was hard to do, not to, get out those political, we can do those after this call. We can do those because that gets loud. That's going to be barbershop talk, Yeah, that's going to be barbershop talk. But you guys, we are the tip of the spear. I was, and this real quick, I was in the inaugural graduation class of Project Mister in Indianapolis. It's with the Center for Leadership Development. Shout out CLD. They and Dennis Bland.
I put my son in there. Yeah. He
Dennis Bland was my mentor. And this dude, I thought he knew everything. Man. I thought he knew everything. But that's the kind of program that we need to try to establish on a greater thing. So we'll talk about that next time. But repentance and forgiveness in November. I thank you guys for coming out. Anybody want 10 or 15 seconds to give out any kind of shout outs or anything like that before we sign off?
Greater is coming.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He always shut down the panel like
always. Hey, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Colson, thank you guys for showing out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You got fed something, and we get to see you guys come back again and keep feeding in as well.
Well, we got to bring Mr. Colson back too, because I think he has a lot more to say than what he did.
Perhaps. Don't you start. Don't start, Marcus.
We gonna get it. We gonna get it. Even if I gotta do a one-on-one with you, sir, we gonna sit down and talk.
Okay.
And we'll televise it too. So we gonna get it all. Dad, if you're the I haven't made it to any kind of level pastoral wise or deacon wise yet. So if you could give us a prayer going out, then we're going to shut this thing down the right way.
Heavenly Father, we again come to thank you for all the many blessings that you continually bestow upon us. Continue to give us the leadance and the guidance that you would have us to have, that we may be able to share it, not just for ourselves, but for those that we can be a blessing unto. Through your precious Son, Jesus' name, we continue to pray and give thanks. Let every heart that know his name, trust his name, and believe in his name, say amen.
Amen. I thank my YouTube audience, all one of you, and my Facebook audience, all 0 of you, for joining us tonight and listening to us. Maybe you'll catch it on the replay. I know it's kind of long, but thank you guys again. I look forward to seeing you guys next month in November for repentance and forgiveness. Keep in touch. I love you all. And to my audience, everybody, good night.
Good night.
Good night.